In episode number 335 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover February's Nintendo Direct.
We also have news on Warner Brothers moving forward on an Aquaman spin-off film.
Getting into our comic books this week, we'll talk about Archie's title renaming and renumbering.
This week we do have a comic book review, and that is The Wonder Twins #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your almighty Emperor Palpicali.
And I am Champion Daniel this week.
What are you the champion of?
My Pokemon team consists of, you know this, Chansey, Toxic, Heal, Seismic Toss.
Are those your other Pokemon? Chansey, Toxic, Heal, and Seismic Toss?
I should have 3 Chanseys. Can I just have 6 Chanseys?
Go ahead.
Well, no one would ever beat me, right? It's the champion.
Whatever.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, everybody else. What's that from?
Family Guy. With the lady changing 4 lanes.
I thought about the other day when some lady changed lanes on me like that and almost hit me.
To anyone new to the show, the way we format it is we go through some news first. We head into the Brocat block, which is what happened with Palpicali and I this week. We head into our Patreon shoutouts, where we thank everyone that makes the show possible. And finally, we end it with a comic book or movie review.
But as we mentioned in the very beginning, we have a great piece of news, which is Nintendo Direct presentation, and the company revealed several titles set to release this year.
Many games that I don't think we'll play, but
what games do we play? Kingdom Hearts is still sitting in there,
so
waiting
is my Fire
for me.
Emblem. Yep, it's tough. It's a tough life.
Hashtag parent life.
But live through the Lazy Game guys, watch them play. And these aren't all the titles. As you guys know, we're not huge into gaming, but these are the ones that really caught our interest, some more than others. I know one of the big ones for a lot of players was Super Mario Maker 2, and that's where players can make their own Mario levels with more tools than ever before. People were asking for the sequel, and now they're getting it.
I remember when the first one came out, people went crazy. Like, they love this game. We were seeing all these really cool levels come out, which is awesome. We never played it. I don't really have a desire to play it.
Yeah, I'm not much of a builder. I think I would mainly play other people's levels, but I'm not good at Lego or building, and I don't think I would be good at this one.
I build houses on The Sims. That's all that I build.
You might be better at Minecraft.
I don't really have any. Is there a love story in Minecraft?
I'm sure fans have made love stories.
No, then I'm not about it.
How about this one? You're kind of a Zelda person. You've beaten a Zelda game.
Only one.
A remake to The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening.
It's a modern Nintendo Switch reimagining of the 25-year-old Game Boy title. It looked pretty cool. It might be something that I would try a free demo of.
Yeah, this was the big surprise out of the entire presentation, and they really presented it in such a way where you get the anime intro of the original game. It's done beautifully.
It's gorgeous.
Ever since we got them in Smash Brothers Ultimate, the last one, Super Smash Brothers on the Wii U, and then we got it more recently with the Star Fox game, even though Zero ended up being not as good, but we got a sort of movie on that. I want Nintendo to make their own animated adaptations and shows, and this looked gorgeous. You pointed out that this was an adorable looking remake to Link's Awakening.
It looked so cute, which is why I think I would enjoy it, because it reminds me of, what was that one I played? A Link in Time?
Yeah, it was like the Link Between Worlds.
Yes, that one. That's the one that I played. And part of the reason I enjoyed it so much was because it was cute, right? It's little tiny Link running around, chopping down grass, and that's what you do in this one too. Again, going back to, we just don't have time for games right now. I still have Hey You Pikachu. That's not even.
Might as well be.
Let's Go Pikachu. I still have that waiting for me. I've only played about 30 minutes of Kingdom Hearts, right? I just don't have time to play these games that I really want to, but maybe 25 years from now when they remake it again.
I was kind of the desire to really continue on Kingdom of Hearts 3 went down huge when I watch, and it's not their own fault. I would like watching their streams, but I watch Lazy Gaming guys finish the game, and I'm still confused by the ending. None of it makes sense, so it is a Kingdom of Hearts game.
Well, I mean, it would have to not make sense, right? They have to continue on.
That's right.
We waited 12 years for this. Why change the formula?
The big one, this is the one that I think we were the most excited for, and it was also a kind of a lengthy video because it gave you a good breakdown, but it is Fire Emblem, The Three Houses.
The 3 Hogwarts houses.
Yeah, you got Slytherin, Hufflepuff, and Gryffindor.
Done. Perfect.
No Ravenclaw there.
So in this game, players choose one of 3 houses as players build bonds and support through the game's mini maps.
What'd you think of the full presentation on Three Houses?
I thought it broke it down really well. I will say I'm probably less excited for this game than I have been in previous Fire Emblem games. So the whole premise is you are a professor at a school and you choose one of 3 houses to be the super professor over, and then you take your students out on missions.
This sounds like Snormini come to life in video game. Isn't this what you want?
It probably is Snormini, except I would play as the female professor, right? And Hufflepuff house he's clearly gay.
Yeah,
clearly.
he is.
And Ravenclaw house, Slytherin house, whatever he is.
It's Ravenclaw, fine. The
fine.
blue one.
Ravenclaw house is not my type. He's too much of a pretty boy. And then the other one's a girl, so here I am. There's nothing for me.
Do you think they didn't mention any romance. They said building
didn't.
bonds.
I don't
Is
think
that
there's
something?
going to be romance, because the whole thing with the romance, right, is then you end up playing with their kids. And I don't think kids are having kids.
I don't know, it's Japan.
Well, okay, accurate.
I'm still excited for it. I think it's a nice change of pace between the previous games in which you are in this house or in the school. And it's pretty neat because that's how you utilize their upgrades. And that's how you train your students and your crew into getting into better classes and into building more skills. So I think that's like a nice home base for all 3 houses.
One thing I did think was pretty cool about this, and this is for a more hardcore gamer like yourself, right, is that you have the ability to have your students focus on a particular skill. So you can change that throughout the game. You can start saying, okay, I want you to focus on archery. I don't know, whatever you want them to grow into. And then maybe later on you decide that you'd rather have something else on your team. And so you can change them to focus on a different skill. So it really allows for a lot of customization for your game experience and how you want to play the game and raise your team, which again is cool for a gamer like yourself. Me, I just want to mash buttons and make people fall in love.
I like that the gameplay also retains its same thing from the previous ones, where you have a map, you control your characters, you have the red and blue blocks, and then the animations themselves, yeah, they're more dynamic, they're in 3D, but after playing Fire Emblem Heroes, I'm kind of used to that mechanic, and after the 3DS games as well, we're well past the sprite-based, what I used to prefer version, and I've now grown into this, and I'm completely okay with it. I will be pre-ordering the game tonight.
Another game mentioned was Tetris 99, a battle royale style Nintendo Switch download title available for free to download now.
Yeah, I saw the Broquettes were already downloading it. OmniJam in particular had gotten first place once already.
That's awesome.
I told him to retire. I'm like, that's
You're
it.
done.
You're done. And he's like, no, that's the coward's way out. I'm going to become the best. My journey begins. I'm like, you fool.
Okay, Ash Ketchum.
It is, are you familiar with Battle Royale type games?
Yeah, it's where you're all playing on the same map, the same level essentially, and you're trying to knock each other out.
And there's, yeah, exactly, one person at the very end of the game. Call of Duty implemented that with the latest title. And now we're getting a Tetris version of it. And you can actually choose when you get your combos down which of the 99 players you want to aim it at. So I know when Julian was playing, he's like, oh, I got dogpiled on, where everyone just started sending their blocks to him. And at around number 63, he got knocked out.
Aw.
So I'm pretty tempted to play it.
You should.
Really liked the Nintendo Tetris. I think it was called Tetris DS. And I thought I was pretty good at it. So maybe I'll give this a shot. And it's free to play, so why not?
Why not? I think it's a great concept, right? Tetris is one of those games that I can get lost in for hours, like Candy Crush. I need to get rid of that game.
Get rid of it.
Because I fucking hate Candy Crush because I just play it over and over. Anyway, Tetris is one of those games. I don't think I would enjoy this because I would get too competitive. But if they eventually came out with a version where I could just play it by myself, I would be okay.
The last one here were new Amiibo figurines, and they revealed Snake, Simon, Squirtle, Pokemon Trainer, and then the evolution to the greatest Pokemon of all time. It is Ivysaur.
In a statement from Nintendo, we've run out of things to make. Here's Ivysaur.
Jesus, 2 weeks in a fucking row. Got me again.
Crack myself the fuck up. I'm hilarious.
You're such a dick to Bulbasaur and Ivysaur. Like, once they do Venusaur, that's going to be...
I'm hilarious. And you haven't been trolling me for 12 years now.
I haven't trolled you in weeks. Honestly, I haven't.
I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Take a little break. It's all going to you. It's like you need your fix. And you're like, I need to hear some trolling.
Somebody's got to troll. I told you how I trolled in the parking lot the other day, right?
Yes.
At work.
Yeah.
Did I share that with the
told the story.
Oh
you might have.
So I pull into my parking lot, right? And there's a space pretty close. But I see further down is a car that's exactly my car, right? Except it has one of those paper license plates, right? So it's clearly somebody's new car. So they haven't seen their car often. And so I could have parked in this new space, this closer space, but I drove extra far to park next to their car with my same car. So they would be confused for a hot second. And then I turn around to walk in and I notice the car behind me is also the same car.
Do you think they had the same idea?
To park close to him?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know at what order the cars showed up, right? But I still parked next to them just to screw with them. I did. I had to get my fix, but better you than me.
I guess so. So yeah, those are the Nintendo Direct highlights. If you want more, be sure to check out Lazy Gaming Guys' channel because they did a live commentary and reaction to the full presentation.
Cool.
Here's where we shift on over to superhero, television, and film news before we go into comic book news.
X-Men co-producer Lauren Schuler Donner said that 20th Century Fox once had plans for an entirely female-centric X-Woman movie, but plans fell through.
Yeah, so they almost had it, and I guess they ended up canceling, but, you know, they probably just didn't have the right story for it. Like, it's fine. They should have just let it go.
No,
That's good. I'm glad they...
They must have hate women.
No.
I'm
Not
sorry.
20th Century Fox. Like, once Disney cancels an X-Women, then we can say that, but not in this case. Like, they were waiting for a better story.
Right.
How would a Disney how would an MCU sheep react to this? Exactly like this, right?
Probably. Oh, they need a better story.
There might be one coming up.
You know, Hugh Jackman was still in a contract for, so we had to still make the movie about him.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would have had female directors and crew members, which is very different than what Disney's actually doing on the MCU part.
It's the greatest.
Like, they like to tout now that Captain Marvel it's like, we're trying to invite women into the premieres and not just straight white males. And it's like, yeah, but the movie was co-directed by a guy, so you can't really take that angle. It's not her story, as they keep trying to say.
I just got into this with one of my coworkers, right? So we were talking about movies, and he's going on. He's like, yeah, Captain Marvel's coming out. Oh, because I was mentioning that we're going to the movies this weekend. He's like, are you going to go see Captain Marvel? Because that's coming out, and it's going to be so good. I'm like, no.
He's already decided that it's going to be good.
Right, it's going to be already decided. I was like, no, I haven't seen a Marvel movie in a really long time. And he's like, oh, not since Infinity War, right? And I was like, no, it was Doctor Strange, and it was really boring. And he's like, no, it wasn't. I was like, I take that back. I saw part of Black Panther. And he got really excited. I'm like, and it was also boring. And he's like, no, that's one of my favorite movies.
You like boring movies.
Okay. And he goes, so you're not going to see Captain Marvel? I'm like, if I haven't liked my last few Marvel movies, why would I waste my money or my time? And like, he couldn't fathom, right? Like, it made no sense.
You got to remember that sheep, like, if you're not going with the herd, like, there's something wrong here. Like,
right.
This is not fitting in with everything else. What's happening? And you're a woman. Why? How are you not going to go see it?
Sorry, I watch good movies about women.
That's right.
Not Marvel movies.
How about Wonder Woman 1984?
I will see it.
There you go. We're
I'm
going to be
excited.
there.
I
Opening weekend.
enjoyed regular Wonder Woman.
But it's all right, 20th Century Fox, these plans fell through. I'm sure you would have had a reworking with a better story, higher budget, better actors.
Female everything.
Female everything. But unfortunately, that is now not happening because after the Dark Phoenix film, the mutants will be in limbo as the Disney Fox deal goes through. What a damn shame.
So sad.
Damn fucking shame.
They would have worked it out. But maybe with Disney now, after the success of Captain Marvel...
Oh, so it has to be because of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, of course it's going to be because of Captain Marvel.
Because before that, it was only because of Wonder Woman that Kevin Feige decided, okay, now we can make Captain Marvel.
No. This was planned for a long time.
Yeah, just Civil War.
They just moved it up because they saw the success of Wonder Woman.
Did you ever know about the Civil War thing?
No.
So Captain America 3 was supposed to be a Hydra film. And it was all on the slate and everything. Even Thor Ragnarok didn't have any of the colorful shit. Like, that was originally supposed to be the darkest movie, according to Kevin Feige. Clearly something, Guardians of the Galaxy happened and things changed completely. But the Captain America, when Warner Brothers announced Batman v Superman, Marvel said, well, we need our superhero fight movie, change that to Civil War, adapt it to Civil War, and Captain America 3 suddenly became Civil War.
Of course.
But they have a plan, everyone. They've always had a plan and a vision from the beginning.
Yes. It's set in stone since
That's right.
forever.
Here's something we are very excited about. This blew me away. And this is that James Tynion IV and Freddie William II's 2015 Batman TMNT comic book crossover is getting an animated feature adaptation through a continued partnership with DC Comics, Warner Brothers, and Nickelodeon.
If you had told me any moment before today that this was happening, I would ask you what you were smoking.
Isn't it insane?
It's so awesome. Like, it makes me so excited because we loved this run, right? We love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, we named our son after one. Mm-hmm. We love Batman. Obviously, we named our son after a Batman character, too. I really enjoyed this whole story. I thought it played together so well. So the fact that now it's going to be animated, this is brilliant. I never would have thought. Never would have thought animated series would come out on Blu-ray. Never would have thought any of this.
And if this will obviously do incredibly well, and they already have the second story with Batman TMNT 2, so while you and I may know what's going to happen in the sequel, this is going to be really fun to see animated, and I think the art style won't fit quite like Freddie Williams's. It's really tough to do that in animated. You'd have to really throw in a huge budget. But let's talk about the cast before we go into what I really want to see after this movie.
The cast includes Arkham Origins' Troy Baker, who will be voicing both Batman and the Joker in the film.
I love his Joker. Mm-hmm. Not a huge fan of his Batman, but I really like his Joker.
Kevin Conroy must have been sick.
Well, they're going to use Kevin Conroy. This is, by the way, spring 2019, so a few months away, we're going to get this. But if this does well, I want them to then adapt the Batman the Animated Series TMNT Adventures comic book, and then you can get Kevin Conroy back as the Batman.
That would be so good.
Continue the Timverse, continue Batman the Animated Series. What I really want to see are more movies that continue Batman as we know him, which is from Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. I think the last thing we got was the Batman Harley Quinn movie, which was fine. Let's get more of that from that universe.
I would love to say. I'm just happy that they're making this, right? Because I think it's a great idea. It's going to be wildly popular, of course. But I would love to see Batman the Animated Series and the Nickelodeon TMNT that brought us back really into our love of animated TMNT, right? Because that series was so good also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think and we had the interview with John Samariva, and I think he said that they're really trying to focus instead on the rise of the TMNT franchise and not muddy it up with the previous versions. So that's why he said that he doesn't really foresee any kind of return of those turtles in the animated series. And I think the same does apply if they were to even think about adapting that, because then they would have to bring back those Nickelodeon turtles, which is not something they necessarily want to do.
Just do it. Just
seriously, yeah.
It's Palp approved. Just do it. Oh, Palp approved. Everybody, right now.
So on over to the live action side of things. According to The Hollywood Reporter, an Aquaman spin-off film centered on The Trench is in the works at Warner Brothers.
Cool. The film will be horror themed, and no returning actors from Aquaman have been announced.
I know it also got a budget cut, so it's definitely not going to have anything quite like Aquaman's budget. It is just a let's see if this works type of thing. Why do you think they went for the trench as opposed to Mera, or even doing like a villain movie like Ocean Master? Or I don't know why. What do you think about the trench?
Was so cool.
It was one of the best scenes in the movie, right?
Yeah, it was the best scene in the movie. There's a lot you can do with the trench. So if I had to pick and say what I think this movie will be about, is I could even see it beginning when Atlantis first drops into the ocean, right? Because you got that whole backstory of...
You did it. You fucking cracked it.
You got the whole backstory of some people turned into Atlanteans, right? And some people turned into the fishermen, and some people turned into the trench. And so now you have that story. Just imagine it, your whole city has sunken, and now the people around you are turning into these monsters. How do you survive that? How do you move? In the end, do you become a monster as well? And that's how the movie ends. I have chills.
You fucking... I was like, how's this going to work? And of course, it's in Aquaman itself. That's how it's going to work. It's an origin story of the trench. I'm in now. You
weren't in before?
They didn't call me to be in the fucking movie. So I mean, not even for a cameo. So
yeah, you don't need any of the people there, but now you have this great background story that even lends itself into Aquaman.
Do you think there's going to be any Aquaman characters at all if this is in fact going to be some kind of origin?
I don't think you would have to. If you really wanted to be super horror based, I wouldn't put any of the Aquaman. Like, the only one I would put in is like Dead Man on the Throne.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what about the past king?
That would be the only one that I would put in there, and you would only really have him briefly when Atlantis sinks in the beginning.
What about the big Kakamora?
Those were pretty cool. You wouldn't have to have them either, because again, there's something that people turned into. Like, every creature that we saw was something that these Atlanteans turned into. So maybe you see glimpses of them, but you don't have an actual character that we've connected with, because again, this is thousands and thousands of years in the past. Gotcha. And you're trying to make it horror, so you're going to scare people. You don't really want them to be super emotionally attached.
I did like that James Wan, when he tweeted about it, he was saying more or less, yeah, when we were developing Aquaman, secretly inside, I wanted to explore more of this. I'm like,
sure,
yeah, all right, James. It's whatever, though.
You did after everybody was just like, this is the coolest scene ever. And then you're like, yeah, like, creepy motherfuckers.
They're trying to recreate what he did with The Conjuring in that universe that is now, fucking huge. Makes so much money for him. And in this case, why not do the superhero version of that? He did make it very clear on Twitter, and this is something that I saw a lot of people like DC Beluga is going, no, we want Man of Steel 2. We want a Cyborg Sullivan. We want the Flash. We want any number of things before we get the Trench film. And James Wan said, just to be clear, this is not taking place of any other movie. They're not making this like, oh, well, instead of doing the Gotham City Sirens, we're going to do the Trench. That's not how this works. It's kind of like the comparison for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Instead of that character, they're putting another sword fighter. It's like, again, no, that's not how the developers have said it. Filmmakers are saying it. Understand the industry. They work in it. We're not getting instead of films.
I can see why people would be scared of that, but I think, too, that this is the perfect thing for them to make a horror movie about, because you just call it The Trench, right? That's all you have to call it. It's scary in and of itself. And even though it will have ties to Aquaman, obviously, if it's a true horror film and made like I think they're going to make it, you're still going to draw in fans of just horror films. Nobody's going to go, I'm not going to see this because it's an Aquaman film, right? Because that's not how they're going to market it. I think they'll market it as if it isn't you're going to connect to the universe a little bit, right? But as if it isn't really, you have to see this movie to understand this other movie. they're going to market it as a horror film and still get tons of people to go see it because I hate horror films and I'm seeing The Trench.
You're going to give it a shot.
Yes, and I will cry the whole time and I will jump and I will be scared and I will hate my life, but I love The Trench.
Will you cry because you're scared?
Yes.
Or will you cry because the main characters that we've been following the whole time end up becoming Trench themselves at the end?
They will become Trench. I know how this movie will play out. I know there will be creepy things and people like transforming and like, and I will be scared and I will cry for both reasons. And maybe at the end, Lumiere will also turn into a regular candlestick and I can cry some more. Scary things make me cry. Have you never watched me read scary stories on my phone? And I almost I tear up because I get so scared.
See, I don't believe you because I did not see you cry during The Exorcist, so clearly you do not cry during
because that
scary
didn't
things.
Scare me.
But that is a scary film.
Have you seen it? I saw a picture. I should have tagged you in it. It said, using your demons to help you accomplish your goals. And it's a scene in The Exorcist where she's floating in the air, right? And there's some guy standing on her painting the wall. But they made it all black and white so it looked like it fit together.
That's pretty good.
I have to find it for you because it was so fucking funny. And I'm sorry I didn't tag you in it. I can't believe I just remember that. Oh my God. It was great.
Yeah, that's really good.
Are you seeing The Trench? Are you in it with me? Are you
I'm
gonna
in.
hold my hand while I cry?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We'll go see it.
Perfect. Are you gonna wake up with me when I have nightmares? Because I still have nightmares about that dumb Cabin in the Woods movie you made me see.
Cabin in the Woods.
It wasn't really the Cabin in the Woods is based
Evil
off
Dead.
the yeah,
Evil
with
Dead.
her little face like no, I'm still scared. I can't.
Well, we're staying in the world of Aquaman. Hopefully we'll get away from this trench, just like Aquaman and Mara did.
But I love The Trench.
Deadline is reporting that David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick has been brought back by Warner Brothers to write Aquaman 2.
David previously co-wrote Aquaman with Bill Bale.
Will Beal?
Will, whatever.
Probably goes by Bill. I'm sure he does.
Will Beal. I'm still scared from The Trench. I'm sorry. I can't read correctly.
I know that James Wan was saying that he wanted to wait for the right script before he signed on to Aquaman 2. And if you're bringing back some of the same team, I'm sure that's a good sign for him to go, all right, well, maybe we can go ahead and make another 1 billion.
This time we'll make 2 billion. I couldn't connect it. I'm sorry. I tried.
We still got like 3 years. We can come up with something before Aquaman 2 comes out. It'll happen. Good news, though. Overall, I think they want to try to strike gold again with this. So why not retain the same people on it? One of my biggest complaints from Aquaman was the story. So I'm hoping that it does improve from the first one.
Hopefully. Sequels are never as good as the originals.
That's not true. Aliens and Terminator 2 say hi.
Are they remaking Terminator?
No, it is a sequel, and I believe Arnold comes back, but it has it's kind of like it's a sequel to Terminator 2 while ignoring all the other sequels.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is. So I guess, yeah, it's
How
kind of
did
like a
that
remake.
not end up on our news?
I think it was months ago, or if not, I don't know, we just didn't really think about it.
You're not excited for Arnold?
Yeah, I really want to see it. I'm pretty sure we did cover it at some point.
It popped up on my Facebook. That's how I knew about it. The best thing to come out of Terminator 2 is the Bitmoji where you're sinking and it says pasta la vista, baby.
Good on them. Referencing something awesome. Last week we had touched upon the possibility of a Batman Beyond animated film. Well, one of the co-creators has something to say about this.
Paul Dini, who was the co-creator of Batman Beyond and Harley Quinn, recently spoke to Newsarama about the recent movie news for both properties.
He told Newsarama, quote, "If they do a Batman Beyond movie, I hope it gets done well, and I hope it's a good continuation of the original series," end quote. Sorry, Paul, I don't think it will be a continuation of your series.
Reading between the lines, they're not paying me to endorse this. Do what you want.
I guess so. Batman Beyond was recently rumored to return, of course, as an animated film, but like we said last week, I think it's going to be a re-origin of the character. It's not going to have any ties to the animated series. I think it'll be closer to what they've done with DC Rebirth, New 52, and before that even.
Paul also had some things to say about the Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn teaser trailer.
Paul said, quote, "I'm glad it's happening. I saw the shots of Margot Robbie as Harley in her new outfit, and it looks like a lot of fun. She's out there in a lot of different forms, so I was intrigued by what her new look was because I knew they were doing a break from what her costume was in Suicide Squad," end quote.
Also, reading between the lines, her original costume was better than any of this shit you guys are putting out.
I think it's very neutral. I think he's just being very PR about it.
Very politically correct, yes.
I know he...
PR is public relations.
Yeah, gotcha. And I know he did like Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad. Paul Dini, however, is doing a short story with artist Dustin Nguyen for Detective Comics 1000. So if you want to see the next bit of Paul Dini in the DC universe, you got to get Detective Comics 1000, one of the best animated writers out there and one of the best comic book artists working in the industry today.
Why wouldn't you get this book just for them two? Like, that's all you need.
That's worth a $9.99 right there. Their short story.
One page. Done. $9.99.
The rest of it, black pages, all 80 pages, 79 pages black.
Whatever. Perfect. Just that one page of Dustin and Paul. My dreams are made. Do you think Paul is really happy with the direction they've taken Harley?
I don't think he minds at all because overall, like we mentioned in our review of Suicide Squad, they kept to the spirit of the character. I think it's closer to Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's Harley Quinn than it is to Jimmy and Amanda's from the New 52.
I agree. Definitely. Good. Good for you, Paul. I hope you're making some good money off this.
Moving on over to the comic book side of things, the final issue to Batman Damned has been pushed back 2 months to May 2019.
Oof. This would mark the issue's third delay.
I really don't know what's happening with this series. I don't know if it's the artwork that's getting kind of delayed. I don't know if there's more disagreements between what they're doing with each issue. I know Batman Damned number 2 didn't have anything quite like news hitting, I guess, to a lot of readers. I thought it was still kind of an intensive issue, but overall 1 and 2, story's all right. I think it's just getting a lot of attention because of the Bat Penis in issue 1. Without that, we probably would have had issue 3 by now, and maybe more of DC Black Label.
The whole Bat Penis just pissed me off because it wasn't even that impressive.
Did you see Azzarello's Twitter?
Mm-mm.
He's got it's not the cucumber. What's the purple one?
The eggplant.
He's got the eggplant and then a bat next to his name now on Twitter.
Good for him.
And he's like, you guys won't let me show the Bat Penis. Like a lot of people are saying, he's not going to return. He's like, no, you guys won't let me.
Right. You're all fucking big babies about it. Uncomfortable.
A more permanent delay that happened this week came from another issue that we also just promoted and talked about last week.
We were really excited for this, but DC Comics has told retailers that the upcoming Vertigo title, Second Coming, has been canceled.
There was a recent petition from the Spanish right-wing group calling for the title's pull that reached over 227,000 signatures. Not huge, but
no.
I don't know if this sort of persuaded DC to take a step back, and I know the final order cutoffs, maybe that was it. The final order cutoffs were on Monday, where all comic shops put in their final numbers, so maybe they were lower than expected, and so they then asked, well, here's the reason why. We have a tweet from the writer, Mark Russell, who said, quote,
"The DC Vertigo's cancellation of the orders for Second Coming, just so you know, DC did not do anything untoward to me. I asked for the rights back and they gracefully agreed. They've been a pleasure to work with and it will still be released, albeit with a different publisher. I've already got other publishers interested and DC was really great at developing this title and super gracious about letting me have it back so I can get it published somewhere else. It'll all work out. You'll still get to read it, and probably sooner than if it were still with Vertigo." End quote.
When I went into the thread from Mark Russell, he pretty much said that he's going to go with a publisher that won't make him change anything. So that's immediately when I tweeted back to him and said, okay, so that was the breaking point. Looking forward to reading this wherever it may land. So DC wanted him to change the story based on the content, based on the controversy, I guess. Didn't want to get any more pushback than it was already getting. So Mark did not agree with the changes and said, all right, I'll just go with someone else. And it sounded like it was more or less an amicable breakup there.
That's probably best for both parties, right? So will still have a lot of notoriety, obviously, because it got as big as it did. It got as much publicity as it did.
And it's still getting it, yeah.
Right. And if you really wanted to read this book, you're going to pick it up from wherever it shows up. So good on them. DC's just going to lose that money.
Yeah, they are. I think that some of this group might celebrate in a way, like, oh, we got it canceled, but it's still coming out.
Right.
As he said, sooner even now. And it's getting more publicity because of its cancellation. So when it ends up at probably Image Comics, not published by DC, previously canceled, they can really spin this in a way of like, ooh, look at this Second Coming title that people want banned.
So controversial.
That's right. You get your first issue now. I think it's going to get different covers too, because Jimmy was tweeting at Mark also and saying, oh, I know Amanda really loved working on your covers because she was doing the cover A's on them. So I think that they'll scrap those covers. Maybe those belong to DC or whatever and just resolicit with an all new look.
Either way, we're following it. We'll obviously review it on the show, and I'm sure we will enjoy it.
Some more changes coming to comics. Archie's long-running comic book series, which we are reading, is publishing in its legacy renumbering now and getting a new title starting with issue number 705.
The new title will be Archie and Sabrina.
Have you been keeping up with Archie?
I feel like yes. The most recent one that I read was they got back from the summer and he was ignoring Betty and Veronica, and then it turned out he was making out with Sabrina in his bedroom.
There was an issue that came out last week for Archie, a new one.
I haven't read that one yet. Don't spoil it.
And the quote here from Archie Comics co-president Alex Segura reads, quote, "The biggest revelation from Nick's first arc was that Archie and Sabrina were a couple, which got everyone talking and set up a new, wholly original status quo. But how do we get there? What are the repercussions? And we'll see that as Sandy and Nick roll out their second arc, it made sense to have the title reflect that, showcasing two of the company's biggest characters in one must-read title," end quote.
With the success of both Riverdale and the Sabrina show on Netflix, I think this is a really smart move. You're going to pull people into that comic. Do I really like Sabrina? No. She needs to leave Archie alone so Archie can go be with Betty and Veronica. Sister wives, whatever.
Wait till you get to the part of the issue where Betty and Veronica convince themselves that we need to really find out who Archie's going. Because at first they were like, well, it doesn't matter. We're our own selves. We can find other men. We're not in love with him, so who cares what he does in his own time? And then one says, but wait, what if she's going to hurt him? Yeah, what if that changes our friend? He's both our friends, right? Yeah, we need to do this for our friend. That's right, for our friend. And then
jealous
they bitches. It's a good read. It's awesome. I really like Archie. There's like 6 trade paperbacks right now that are still in line with this now Archie and Sabrina story. I do recommend going back and reading it. It is really good stuff. And it's not like Riverdale. I will make that really clear because a lot of readers that do end up picking up Archie have that misunderstanding that it's going to be Riverdale. It's not nearly as dark at all. But it is a little bit more modern, but not so modern that they're going, and now Archie's actually a female and all. No, they're not doing any of that. They're still the same characters at their core, but we're getting deeper stories than what we got in the original comics.
Speaking of Riverdale, I'm just throwing random facts at you now because that's what I do, right? I learned this.
More content?
This week. The lady in Riverdale who plays Cheryl Blossom, the redhead, she is vegan and eats 1,700 calories a day. How does she even do that? How is that even possible? I don't know.
I'm trying to think what vegan things have a shit ton of calories. Would that be like maybe beans?
I guess. She just like...
Tofu?
She eats a lot because she works out 6 days a week also, which is why she's so nice and skinny. And I'm jealous, but I will not work out 6 days a week.
Not even if they paid you?
If they paid me, sure. Like if that was my job, okay. But it's not my job. I still have a regular job and a kid job and running our household job. I don't have time for myself and working out. Now you know more about the show Riverdale.
Fun fact. That's right. So with that last bit of comic book news, let's head into what's new on Netflix, the February 2019 highlights.
These highlights are lame as fuck.
Yeah, the list, I mean, you can view the full list if you want. Just search February 2019, what's new on Netflix, but it's a short list. And we had 2 titles, I guess technically 5 titles of interest this week.
The first title is Jaws #1.
Yeah, that is a classic.
Yeah.
I think one of those movies that you need to see before you die. People often talk about this film as the one that people were afraid of even taking baths when this released because of Jaws. Like, obviously it doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of like when that paranormal movie Poltergeist came out and people were afraid of the static TVs because of the ghosts, which that makes a little more sense because it's exactly like the movie that's in your house. As soon as the stations were done, you got that static noise. But Jaws is a piece of filmmaking. It's definitely a must watch if you somehow haven't. If you're maybe a younger listener, definitely check it out.
Next on our list is Jaws #2.
Yes, and I think that's all we can say about that. Jaws #3 is the third title on our What's New on Netflix.
And our fourth title, you guessed it, is Jaws #4.
That's right, The Return. Who cares?
Isn't that the one with Jaws kid who was out for revenge?
Jaws Jr.?
I know there was a movie with Jaws kid out for revenge.
Yeah, there was one of them like that. And I don't know where I never saw the sequels. I did not care. And I know they were terrible. But what is the story? Like, how does Jaws' kid know about this? How does he have the same bloodlust as his dad or her? I don't know what it is.
It's on Netflix. We'll have to watch it. We'll find out. Did you see, speaking of Jaws, they found that giant ass shark off the coast of Florida?
No, I didn't see that.
It's the biggest great white. I don't know. I'm making this up. I think it's the biggest great white that they've ever seen. Like the size of what Jaws was portrayed in the movie or something. It's huge.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it was like pretty docile. Like people were swimming next to it, right? Just chilling. Giant ass shark. I'm going to have to look it up. I'll show you. I'll educate you things about our state.
There you go. The other title, this one is actually way more important than everything else I think on the list, is The Umbrella Academy Season 1, which is a Netflix original based on a comic book. Much like Deadly Class, which is also getting a shit ton of heat. I am now selling tons of this trade, Umbrella Academy Volumes 1 and 2, and also Deadly Class, although that one's ramping up a little bit slower because it's not quite here yet. But Umbrella Academy, from what the boss man told me, the comics are awesome. The show is apparently pretty good from what people are saying, so I think it might be worth watching. I have no idea. I know nothing about Umbrella Academy. I know I'm selling it. I know I like it. Because it sells. I now like the Umbrella Academy.
Is there a love story in it?
I don't know. I know nothing about them. I have zero information.
Why didn't you do your research? You're supposed to know these things when I ask them. I think there's a love story in it.
I think we're going to have to watch it and find out. How about that?
How about I read about it and determine if I want to watch it?
There you go. You can do that too.
I discovered who the Black Mask is in Riverdale.
Don't fucking tell me.
I spoiled it.
Is it a female?
I spoiled it. I can't tell you. You just told me to not fucking tell you.
Every time they fucking hide the voice on these characters, it ends up being a female.
You don't know. I know who it is. I know if it's a female or not, but maybe I don't want to tell you.
Fine. That's fine. I'll watch it. I don't care. I don't have to have it spoiled. I like discovering it for myself.
That's lame. I like to spoil things.
I know that.
Read the end of the book first. Do they end up together? Yes. Okay.
Let's move on into our Brocat block, which is where Papa Kelly and I have been this week.
This week, I went to work. I came home. I went to sleep.
Kelly Jaws 1, Kelly Jaws 2, and Kelly Jaws 3.
And then 4, my child seeks revenge for me. It was a pretty uneventful week. I was just working.
You got a manual coffee maker.
I got a pour-over pot. Thank you. I did. I got pour-over for my coffee. I've been making my coffee with my little grounds. It tastes delicious.
I never got to try it. You're drinking it now, aren't you?
There's a little bit. There's like...
oh well.
Try it. There's like some crusty milk bits on the bottom. Sorry. It tastes the same.
Tastes like coffee.
Yep, there you go. I knew it. Get out of my house. You coffee peasant. It's delicious. I love my coffee. I'm sad that you can't taste the difference. I get angry when I go to Starbucks and they give me regular espresso instead of blonde espresso.
Same
It's
shit.
not the same shit. They
Same
roast
shit.
they roast the beans differently. The blonde espresso is a softer, more subtle taste. Oh, Danny.
I think it was Maceo who was like, how can you tell the difference between alcohol but not coffee? I'm like, I
Can
don't
you
know.
tell the
It just-
difference between alcohol?
Yes.
Like, really, if I gave you like vodka and rum, you could tell the
Yeah,
difference?
absolutely.
So how can you taste the difference between that and not coffees?
Because here's why. I will explain. I didn't say it on Twitter, but here's exactly why.
I'm ready.
When I drink coffee, it is to work, to get going, to get through the day. So I consume it for fuel, not for enjoyment. I am now addicted and I need it to get day to day. Whereas alcohol or food, I eat and consume more or less to enjoy it. Even when this is why I like to get to work really early, because I like to enjoy my breakfast if I have it. When I go on break, I like to get my food as quickly as possible so I can sit down, relax, enjoy it, and just kind of really decompress. When I'm drinking coffee throughout my workday, it is between like I'll hit the transaction button, hit OK, enter, and as they're punching in their PIN number and doing all that, I'll like lean a little bit and drink a little sip of coffee and then boom, back at it, get my fuel. Like I'm not sitting there thinking about it. I'm just drinking my fuel.
That's interesting because I drink coffee for fuel, right? Again, I too need it to start my workday, but I also drink coffee to relax. So like when I'm sipping it throughout the day, each little sip is relaxation for me. I enjoy my food too, but usually, again, now where I am, I'm eating my food while I'm watching Beauty and the Beast on the couch, and Leo's picking off my zucchini noodles and feeding them to the dog, which is what happened today, right? He put it in his mouth and he like spit it out, and then Ace gobbled it up. So then he kept taking chunks to feed to her, and I'm like, all right, well, there goes my lunch.
He became I am your provider.
Right, but
of the stuff I don't like.
but Leo doesn't want anything to do with my coffee. But it's always been a relaxation thing for me, right? Like, always. So I guess that's the difference. All right, you are forgiven for being a coffee peasant, but you're still a coffee
It's
peasant.
kind of cool. Like,
But-
I almost feel like I'm not a coffee peasant
But
now.
Take
Take that, Brokehead
No,
Core, that were
you're-
fucking jumping on my ass on fucking Twitter.
You're still a coffee peasant. Don't don't mistake that.
That's fine, but I'm Palpa. What do you call that? Not Palpa approved, but Palpa forgiven.
Palpa given. Palpa forget. I'll think of
Palpa
it.
pardoned.
There you go. Palpa pardon. It's perfect.
You gotta do it there. You,
so
Palpa
I palpa pardon you.
Thank
So
you.
can you taste the difference between spaghetti sauces?
Yeah, I can.
Really? I didn't know
Mhm.
that. So do you like it when I get you the fresh spaghetti sauce better than the jarred spaghetti sauce?
Which is when have you gotten me the fresh
Like
spaghetti
sometimes
sauce?
I get you the fresh pasta instead of the boxed pasta. And whenever I get you the fresh pasta, I get you the fresh pasta sauce.
Aren't they all like in boxes and
I mean, they are, but they're different.
I don't understand that because I've never seen like I definitely know the difference between like wheat and regular pasta and bread and all that. So I don't know if that's what you mean.
No, that's not what it like. There's fresh pasta where it has to be refrigerated versus the boxed pasta where you're reanimating it in a sense.
I guess I don't know that is that like the Walt Disney of
Next time we go to the store, I didn't know that I would educate you on like food things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. For the Brokehead Block where I've been this week, I made a guest appearance on the Film Exiles podcast, which is episode number 25 of the Film Exiles podcast. There is a link in today's show notes in case you want to check it out. But I've been listening to this podcast since episode 1. It really got on my Twitter news feed after all of the DCEU stuff, especially after Justice League. There was a huge movement among the DC belugas to really talk to each other and really talk as one voice to Warner Brothers to release the Snyder Cut, and that's still going. But out of that, I think, I'm not too sure because I should have asked them, but I didn't. But I feel like the Film Exiles came out of that movement of all of these Disney films and the changes that Warner Brothers has been making, not enough focus on really good movies. So what they do is every week they'll talk about film and movies that they saw, and they'll review movies sometimes multiple times a week. And
Wow.
for my episode, the one I appeared in, Manu and Millennial Mike ended up inviting me on to talk about the last 10 years of film.
Oof.
So that was 2009 to 2019. What have been the changes? What have been the highlights, the downfalls, and what we've noticed And I think that's why they invited me on, so I can talk a little bit about the superhero side of movies, which we did touch up on. So definitely check it out. And a huge thanks to Manu and Millennial for inviting me on to the podcast. And hopefully they can, one of them, and if not all of them, can eventually make it on to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast for the next time we review one of these DC movies, or maybe a movie that they might enjoy discussing. They said that, next time they might invite me back on, but I'm just happy I made it on once to a podcast that I do enjoy listening to.
That's awesome. That does wrap up what happened with us this week, though. And now we move into what happened with our Patreons this week. This is our Patreon shoutouts.
This week we've got 4 shoutouts. The first one goes out to Jared on Twitter @SpoonSandwich. You can also subscribe to his YouTube channel at youtube.com/Jared Monroe.
Jared helped fill in with Bobby while I was out on my tooth removal leave. And he also came out to this month's UFC pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was really neat to meet him in person finally. And he's a huge contributor of our Discord, on Lazy Gaming Guys' Discord, on the live chats, and of course, to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. And I know Jared is, at first we were talking, beforehand, and, he has an abrasive nature, much like myself. And he's like, you might hate me initially. And I'm like, nah. Turns out we hit it off. Of course.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, turned out we hate each other. I was gonna be
We're never going to hang out again.
Okay.
He canceled his Patreon, actually, so this was a mistake.
Oops, sorry.
No, we hit it off great, and obviously connected on a lot of very similar things. And I think that's why he's a Patreon backer, because a lot of what we talk about can be a little bit abrasive, especially in the stances that we take.
Us? Abrasive?
So huge thanks, Jared, for your Patreon support. Next one goes out to Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys.
You can find him on Twitter @LazyGamingGuys, @Pandanime. Scott has been on a Disney cruise, and we are looking forward to hearing his cruise stories on the next stream.
What's your favorite part? We've been on one Disney cruise, I believe. What's your favorite part of them?
The food.
Every cruise.
Every cruise. So we've been on, our cruise history, we've been on one Disney and then 2 Royal Caribbean, because Royal Caribbean is significantly cheaper than Disney, of course. But you can't compare the service and the food between the two. You get what you pay for with either cruise. Royal Caribbean's a little better when you don't have kids, because there's more nightlife and there's more drinking, where you don't really have that on Disney. But the service was out of this world on Disney, right? The story that I always go to is the first night we sat down on our Disney cruise and they asked me what I wanted to drink. And I said a cup of coffee, and they brought it to me and I mixed it. And then every night after that, the coffee was waiting for me at the table, mixed the way that I did it the first night, right? We go on Royal Caribbean, and every night they ask me what I want, and every night I tell them coffee.
And it's always a different server, too. You don't get the same ones, really.
But even when you had the same server, right? Like, I remember, again, on Disney cruise, we're vegetarian. So we said,
oh, that's true.
We're vegetarian. And they said, okay, here are the options, and the chef can make this for you if you want that as well. Royal Caribbean, every night I sat down with the same server, and every night they said, try the steak. And every night I said, I'm vegetarian. And they said, oh, we also have lobster. And I'm like, no, you don't get what I'm saying. So the service is just completely different. Again, the food on Disney is beautiful. It's like artwork, and the flavors are there. And, our servers learned the kind of food that we would like and say, you're really going to enjoy this. Let me bring you some more. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was great. So I digress. I'm done. I'm sorry. I could keep talking about our cruises forever because I really enjoyed them. Someday we'll make it back on a Disney cruise.
Do skip the carnival ones, though, because that's for cruise peasants, as Papa Kelly would say.
So for coffee peasants.
Like all the cruises, even the Disney and the Royal Caribbean's made fun of the carnival ones. Right. Like they're kind of like that's where the riffraff goes. That's where they get the free cruises from. They send you to those.
I've talked to people and they say carnival's okay.
I highly doubt it.
I don't think I'll ever go on one. I kind of want to go on a Norwegian cruise because I hear those are beautiful.
Probably a lot of whites on that too.
And it'll be.
I would stick out like a fucking sore
the
thumb.
boat too.
Yeah, they would.
Sir, you're on the wrong
You're from
ship.
Cuba, aren't you? You snuck on. Are you a worker?
I feel like Norwegian is still more expensive than Disney too. So.
Oh yeah, 100. But it might be better.
It might. It probably
Somehow,
won't be,
yeah.
but it
And
might be.
I'm excited to hear Scott's stories
Yeah.
on his cruise and what I know he got to see episode 4 on the big screen because they have the theater.
Of course.
in the cruise,
which
and
is so cool.
He said it was neat seeing Star Wars on the
Mm-hmm.
big screen, and I'm assuming that's not something he got to do when they re-released them in theaters. So that's really neat. I'm excited to hear what he says on the stream.
Our next shout out goes out to Jose, whose Instagram is at Decal Avenue.
Jose ended up sharing that dog reaction video of humans putting up the blanket, throwing it up in the air, and quickly running out of vision, out of the view of the dogs, and then the dog's confused, this, where do you fucking go? Looking down at the blanket, it consumed him.
I love those videos. I saw one the other day where it was fails for all of those. Have you seen those?
No.
Where the person throws it up and then they trip on the blanket and fall? Or there's one where the kid throws it up and then turns and runs into the wall and falls down. There's one where they throw it up and the dog attacks them and they're like, ah! And they fall down. Dog gets covered in the blanket. Hilarious. We should try it with Ace. We should try this. She probably won't care. She'll just roll
Probably
over
not.
and go back
I
to
have a
sleep.
nose and I can smell you around the corner.
Right. I know you're right there, Dad. Not fooling me.
Final shout out this week goes out to Jordan on Twitter at Aswaylock from the One Up Me podcast.
Jordan discussed Respawn Entertainment, The Walking Dead, Apex Legends, and more in their latest episode.
That's right, so very video game centric. If you want even more video game news, check out One Up Me podcast on your favorite podcatcher. And in case you're wondering how you spell his Twitter name, it is Consuela backwards.
But that does wrap it up for our Patreon shoutouts for this week. Thank you to every single one who supports us monetarily and all of those who help make this podcast a reality.
That includes Jose on decalavenue.com, who helps out with the $5 reward tier. But if you want to be heard on the podcast, leave us a voicemail. There is a link in the description of today's episode and every episode. But in case you want to type it right in, right now, it is speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke. You can record right from your phone. Just access the website on your browser, send us a voicemail, be heard on the show.
But of course, the best thing you can do for us is let your friends know about us. Leave us a review on whatever podcatcher you use. Reach out to us on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke, at Palpakelly. Let us know what you enjoy, what you want to hear more of, and just interact with us.
Let's head into our final segment of today's show, and that is our comic book highlight of the week.
This week, our highlight is The Wonder Twins, number 1 of 6. It's written by Mark Russell, and the art and colors are by Stephen Byrne.
This is another title in the Wonder Comics line from Brian Michael Bendis. However, of course, it's not spearheaded by him. It's a whole new set of writers and artists. So it's kind of like Bendis' universe in a way, but it still takes place in DC continuity, as we've seen with Young Justice, of course, which I believe would count as the main title in Wonder Comics. But this 6-issue miniseries, we love Mark Russell from the Flintstones and Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss Chronicles, and of course now with Second Coming. So anything he writes, we're pretty much going to jump on. And in this case with Wonder Twins, it does make fun of the fact that one turns into water and the other one turns into animals. And that's a part of the humor. That's a part of the story. This is not going to be a heavy type of comic book, but it's also not going to be the cartoon either. It's kind of in between. It hits more the theme of the Flintstones, but with not as much political commentary as we got in that book. Instead, this is a very light, almost taking a humorous approach to the DC universe, but not quite to the point of satire.
I loved this book so much. If I had to talk about a feel, I would actually kind of liken it to the Archie comics we're getting right now, where it's humorous and it's easy to follow. Again, exactly like you said, a humorous approach to the world of DC, to these heroes, but also kind of that high school feel, right? Because the Wonder Twins are here on Earth in high school trying to figure out how to act on Earth because they're from another planet and things are very different and there's no thunderlust here.
Apparently there is.
Cracked me up, this whole book. I enjoyed every second of it.
I did like that there's that parallel that they're trying to fit into, even with the superheroes. Like they're up on the watchtower and they're not really included in the superhero world of let's go fight Mr. Mxyzptlk, and then they're like, no, we'll handle this, but you guys can just chill out here. So
listen
they're
to
kind of
music on the supercomputer.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like that. I don't think I suppose the main story is that they are trying to fit into Earth. There's not necessarily a huge villain that suddenly came up. It's none of that. But it is a very light, very type of, I think you said it perfectly, kind of like a high school story for these characters.
For the most part, I think, this and I don't know, but if it continues with the direction of this first book, it's kind of going to be a day in the life, essentially, story, right? So it's just them, very minor villains. I did love how they defeated Mxyzptlk in it, and they're like, this is the guy they were worried about. This is the guy they were talking about destroying the Earth for, right? So again, very light, very easy to read. But for me, it was so funny just to see these different situations, and Batman was funny and Superman was funny. And not that they were intentionally trying to be, right? But the situation was humorous and the stuff that was happening was humorous. And then they're sharing stories about them in high school and like the crazy shit they did. And I loved it. It was great. I'm sold.
When the miniseries is finished, all 6 issues, do you see them joining any team? Do you see them maybe on Young Justice?
Potentially. I don't know. I mean, what can they really do? They turn into a bird in water, which I thought was great because he turned into more things like originally, right?
I'm
pretty sure they could turn into whatever, but everybody always goes back to like Hawk and a bucket of water, and that's how they put out fire. That's all that I ever associated with them, but I'm pretty sure you could turn into more things.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll show up somewhere else. I think Young Justice is going to be a little bit heavier than what they've already established with these characters. And I remember subs kind of pointing and laughing like the Wonder Twins. And it's like, yeah, this kind of fits that kind of reaction.
Great.
It takes the reaction and goes, all right, it is silly. And we're going to use that.
I'm spoiling this whole book, I'm sorry, but he's talking to the class and he's like, and our world is perfect and we've solved all these things, and everybody's like falling asleep and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, and then when the thunder comes, we all just have sex in the sky. Cracked me up. Read this book. I love it.
So that's your new number 1. We try to do a jumping on point, or at least a number 1 or a one shot that we review right here on the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. So there it is, the Wonder Twins number 1. I think strongly recommended by both Papa Kelly and I.
But with that, guys, we will wrap up our podcast this week. This was a great week. I had lots of laughs. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it was a good varied news too. Video games, film, and comic books.
So once again, guys, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke, at Palpa Kelly. Let us know what you thought of the show. If you want us to talk about anything next week, we are always happy to hear from you, interact with you, and quote you on the show.
That's right. And if you want a link for everywhere you can find us, head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. As you mentioned, you can help us by leaving a review on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts. We haven't gotten a review on there in a little bit, so take 2 minutes, head on over to Apple Podcasts, and leave us a star rating and a short review.
Only 5 stars, please.
Anything less than that, you can leave it to Rogan or someone.
Somebody else.
So thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast and today's episode. I am Champion Daniel.
And I am your Emperor Palpa Kelly.
And Brokehead Core. All will be well.